Hello everyone, today we're diving into one of the most important ideas in media studies, agenda setting theory, developed by Maxwell McCombs and Donald Shaw. This theory helps us understand how the media shape what we think is important, even without directly telling us what to believe in. Agenda setting theory says the media don't tell us what to think, they do tell us what to think about. What this means is that media outlets, whether it's traditional news, online websites, or social media platforms, play a huge role in deciding which issues get our attention. They choose what stories to cover, how much coverage to give them, and how often those stories appear. Because of this, the topics we see over and over again start to feel more important, simply because they're always in front of us. It's not necessarily that the media are trying to manipulate our opinions, it's that they shape our sense of what matters by spotlighting certain issues and pushing others into the background. For example, if the news keeps talking about inflation, rising prices, or climate change day after day, people tend to assume those must be the biggest problems facing society. Regardless of whether the situation has actually gotten worse, the amount of coverage makes the issue feel urgent and significant. So, in short, agenda setting theory explains how the media guide public attention and set their priorities for what we discuss, worry about, and focus on. Discuss, worry about, and focus on. Agenda setting theory first appeared as a formal idea in the early 1970s. The concept really took shape when Maxwell McCombs and Donald Shaw conducted a study during the 1968 US presidential election. At the time, they wanted to understand if the media were actually influencing what voters saw as important. So here's what they did. They carefully examined the topics that major news outlets were covering, things like foreign policy, the economy, civil rights, and more. Then they surveyed voters in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, asking them what they believed were the most important issues of the election. The result was striking. The list of issues voters care about almost perfectly matched the list of issues that dominated the news. Even the ranking of the issues was nearly identical. In other words, the more the media emphasized the topic, the more voters believed the topic mattered. This finding suggested something powerful. The media weren't just reporting information, they were shaping the public agenda itself. They were influencing what people talked about, what they debated, and even what they prioritized at the ballot box. McCombs and Shaw's study became the foundation of agenda setting theory, and since then, dozens of studies around the world have confirmed the same pattern. Whether it's politics, social issues, or major events, the media constantly plays a major role in directing the public attention. The first level focuses on the issues themselves. It's all about which topics the media choose to put in front of us. When a topic gets repeated, constant coverage on TV, online, or across social media, it naturally rises in importance in the public's mind. If you keep seeing a story everywhere, it starts to feel like a major issue, even if nothing about the situation has actually changed. A great example is the pandemic in 2020, because COVID-19 dominated headlines around the world, every day, on every platform. It quickly became the number one global concern. The intense coverage made the issue impossible to ignore. Second level goes deeper. It's not just about choosing what topics to cover, but how those topics are presented. Level deals with the details, the angles, and the tone the media uses when talking about an issue. This includes decisions like which facts or statistics to highlight, what emotional tone to use, positive, negative, or neutral. An example to think about is the topic of immigration. The media can frame it in several ways: as an economic issue, human rights issue, or as a national security issue. Each frame doesn't just present information, it shapes how the public interprets that information depending on which angle is emphasized. The same issue can feel completely different. Today, agenda setting isn't just controlled by traditional news outlets. Social media platforms like Twitter, TikTok, or Instagram set agendas through trending topics, viral posts, algorithms that prioritize some content over others. Influencers, online communities, and even memes now play a part in shaping what issues become a public conversation. But even with all these new players, the core idea remains the same: visibility equals importance. In the end, understanding agenda setting helps us become smarter media consumers. It reminds us that issues can feel like major crises simply because they're receiving heavy coverage, while other important topics might seem invisible because they're not in the headlines. The media power isn't always about persuasion, it's about what gets repeated and what gets attention. Recognizing this led us to question not only what is being reported, but also what is not. Agenda setting theory shows us that media can have a powerful influence on what we see as important, shaping our conversations, our priorities, and even our fears, from elections to global events to everyday social issues.